Response agencies trained today for one of the most high-pressure situations they may face, a plane crash. And while we hope this doesn't happen, as Charisma Robinson reminds us, that devastating 2010 Cessna crash, which killed 9 men, is a recent and firm reminder that emergency crews need to keep their response skills sharp.
The blood and wreckage of today's simulation were very real, and it had to be, to give emergency crews a real depiction of what an actual plane crash would be like. Big Bird Airline crash landed after experiencing a landing gear problem shortly after it took off from Lynden Pinland International Airport this morning. Emergency crews are on the ground.
Fire was involved. Some 84 souls were reported on board. We have now controlled the fire, declared the scene safe, and we are now doing rescue. We have moved out 22 walking wounded at this time, and we have 5 critical patients who are being treated at our advanced medical posts.
But not everyone survived the ill-fated flight. Crews also had to recover dead bodies from the impacted area, preparing them for the worst. Airport Authority Chief Fire Officer Samuel Clark says if the situation was real, emergency crews would have to execute LPIA's contingency plan.
These drills are not graded in percent. They just automatically test our plans, and wherever there is weaknesses, we seek to make improvements. From our past, always, again, we had a problem with improvement in communications. We're going to evaluate this year to see if our communication aspects have been improved, and if there are needs for further improvement on those, and then we'll take the necessary steps to do that.
Now, International Civil Aviation Organization regulations require all airports to establish an emergency plan. It also requires the plan to be tested by conducting a full-scale emergency exercise every 2 years. This is the 3rd time LPIA has conducted such an exercise, which was observed and assessed by local and international evaluators. Civil Aviation Director Patrick Roll says today's simulation was much better than those conducted in previous years, but there is still room for improvement. The initial response by emergency crews was slow.
If we look at the first one, to be honest, was a mess. We did it. We found that there was a lot of errors. We found that in certain areas we were not prepared. In most incidents like this, the major problem is communication, so we had to correct those. We had to ensure that all of the call list, everyone who was involved, were notified in proper time. So every time we do this, it improves.
No, by tomorrow, officials will have a clearer picture on what has to be improved on following a full assessment by evaluators. Charisma Robinson, ZNS Network News.
Meantime, Flight Standard Inspectorate Manager Hubert Adderley says while emergency response exercises are important, ensuring that flight standard regulations are adhered to is also key. He says, though, there are some challenges when it comes to actually proving an operator has violated a regulation.
The main focus of the civil aviation, the unit that I'm responsible for, are to keep operators safe as possible, based upon the regulations that are in place. It's sort of difficult to clamp down on a hacker. We have put information out to sensitize the public about getting on certain type of aircraft when you're not sure whether it's a chartered or approved chartered aircraft or not. It's hacking, you run into people sometimes and they tell you, these are my family on the plane, these are my friends on the plane. And no one is going to show you proof that they paid to a hacker for the services that they're about to get. What we observe on our day-to-day things. Now, we do have persons who, from time to time, may not comply, and when we're able to address those things, we do that in the appropriate manner.
In other news, with unemployment at one of the highest levels, one company is offering young Bahamians the opportunity to acquire new skill sets. And while the company is helping to take the technical skills of young people to a new level, Bahamas Striping is also reaching new heights of its own. Our Andrew Knowles explains.
22-year-old Ken Knight Major is an unemployed father of 2. But instead of spending his time idly, he's decided to pick up a trade with Bahamas Striping as an apprentice. And although the company isn't able to take on any new employees at this time, Major hopes his new acquired skill soon lands him on the company's payroll.
As a young man, instead of me going out there doing a bunch of foolishness, I'd rather just come, learn the trade, and when I look up on the line, I see they was doing plenty good jobs, and I see like, wow, I could get into this. I really could do something, basically providing for my family.
Although Bahamas Striping has been idle with work, the company brought in UK-based certified striping technician and trainer Brian Bostick in the interim to train its employees in a classroom setting.
The classroom side of it is not really ideal for what we do on the ground, but when we, look at other sides of the thermoplastic, we can do everything. I mean, these guys know how to use the machine already, how to light the machine, how to melt the plastic. So it's just really a case of getting them more experience and getting them to practice how to use the machine.
And now Major and the employees are able to get the practical experience as Bahamas Striping was awarded a subcontract to work on the Airport Gateway project. While the company was contracted to simply apply temporary traffic paint on the road, it would love the opportunity to get to work on the final components of the project to put their special stamp on it. And it seems as though the 2-year-old company doesn't have much more to prove, as they recently secured an award from the Bahamas Contractors Association.
Definitely, I think the company has structured itself with all of them the necessary machinery and now the training. I don't see no reason why we wouldn't be able to handle larger projects.
The company says it's confident in assurances from Works Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Philip Davis that Bahamas Striping and other local stripers will be given opportunities to work on public roads and acquire government work. Andrew Knowles, ZNS Network News.
The Caribbean Challenge has been mounted to protect the Caribbean's lands and waters. By 2028, Caribbean countries, including the Bahamas, have committed to protecting 20% of marine and coastal habitat. The Caribbean Biodiversity Fund has been established, securing commitments of more than $40 million toward the initiative. The second annual Senior Officers Meeting will be held in Grand Bahama this Thursday and Friday. Environment Minister Ken Dorset.
Begin a conversation with communities where these marine parks or marine protected areas may exist as to how they can be integrated into community economies, island economies, how they can be utilized as a resource for new job creation, while at the same time advancing our agenda for protecting the environment.
Executive Director of the Bahamas National Trust, Eric Carey, noted the importance of securing these coastal areas and placing a dollar value on the process.
We did an estimate of what it's going to cost the Bahamas over the next, I think it's 10 years, Eleanor, and it's a figure around about $100 million, which we will need to invest in our protected areas to ensure that they are managed sustainably.
A police officer was arraigned in court today. 24-year-old police constable Roy Ambrister is facing a possible prison term after being charged with causing grievous harm and assault with a deadly weapon. Baldwin Johnson is the alleged victim. The incident allegedly took place at a gas station on East and Shirley Streets back on September 9th. It's alleged that Ambrister gun-butted Johnson. He has denied those charges. As anticipated, Bahamians alike are keeping a close eye, as are Americans, on the U.S. general election result. Fern Carey took to the streets today to get reaction to the poll between the country's first black president, who looks to shore up an ailing economy, and his Republican opponent, Mitt Romney, who says he's better equipped to produce the turnaround, which will mean more jobs for Americans.
In a matter of hours, Americans will either re-elect President Barack Obama to lead the United States for another 4 years, or they will replace him with presidential candidate Mitt Romney. This following a bitter election campaign and a close presidential race. And with the economy and unemployment topping the list of concerns for Americans, these visitors say they have already made their choice.
Yes, I have voted. I'm a lifelong Republican, so I'm pulling for Mitt Romney. But I think that either man will probably do a pretty good job.
Because I don't believe that Obama's done anything the last 4 years worthwhile other than raise taxes, come out with a silly health care plan.
I believe that he's done everything that he said he was going to do without blockage of other people trying to stop him. The things that he was able to do, that he said he was able to do or will do, he's done without the other side stopping him. So for the most part, I feel he deserves another 4 years to finish off what he started.
Meantime, British visitor Simon believes the results of the U.S. general election has implications for countries worldwide because the United States drives foreign policy.
Whoever's going to come in, if it's Republican or Democrats, whichever way their policy is going to go, it's going to have a large effect on everything. As you know, Britain has very close ties to America and foreign policy. And so if you just take, say, Afghanistan, for example, whatever America decides, Britain usually follows on.
However, Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell believes the outcome of the election will not affect the Bahamas' relationship with the United States.
The relationship is built on something more substantial than who the president of the country is at the time. And I say this notwithstanding the obvious emotional and social ties we have as a result of the president, the incumbent, being an African American and the majority population in the Bahamas being African Bahamians. So there's those social and cultural ties and emotional ties. But from a formal point of view, I think that whoever wins, the policies are generally going to be the same.
Obamacare sounds good. He's given a lot of support towards persons who can't afford health care. And as the election results pour in, visitors and Bahamians alike are expected to be glued to their television sets to find out who will be chosen to lead the United States for the next 4 years. Carrie, ZNS Network News.